Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
I'm Christopher
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
I wish I was recording that.
I know more of the words of that song than any healthy person should know.
For me, like, the words are kind of scatty. It's like, I've got hands, and I don't remember exactly what they are, but it's more of a jam than it is.
The song was in French, and it was it was about the Tour de France.
Was it really?
Faire du Nord Paris-Roubaix, Tour de France, Tour de France.
Oh, I thought it was
Roubaix, Tour de France, Tour de... Yeah.
Lions Rock Productions.
It's hilarious. Oh, man.
That was the jam, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How will that become a hit?
I had the 12-inch.
Did you really? It's a good song for a DJ.
Yeah.
Lots of room to work with. Is that what's the most off
might have been the first 12-inch single I ever purchased too.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that was a short time frame. You think about how long 12-inch singles were a thing that you would actually go out as a consumer and go buy. Not as a DJ, but as a regular person.
No, just the consumer, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That had to have been maybe 4 years.
I don't know. There was... Is that true?
That couldn't have been that long.
Well, you know what, though? It wasn't because the appetite dried up. It was because the single came out.
Right. And the CD3 after that. Those things never caught on. The CD3.
Yeah. The other thing that never caught on was the sheet CD that was in the shape of something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right.
There was a company I remember that made CDs that you could make it in the shape of a star or your dog's face.
Right.
You just had a hole in the middle.
Dog's face.
For the spindle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was that guy that was forever trying to reintroduce the 45 hole filler plastic disc into some kind of other thing, you know. But that time, the time for that thing had come and passed. When I ask you this question off the top of your head, how many songs can you even pull? And so if is about Tour de France, is there another song that broke out that was about an elite level sporting event? Can you think of anything else? I got one. Super Bowl Shuffle.
What?
Does that count?
Oh, the Super Bowl Shuffle. Sure.
None of the things in that genre that follow the Super Bowl Shuffle get like that first mover advantage. There is enormous. So whatever the Eagles did.
Like there was no follow up for the British Cup for cricket. There was no follow up for the. Hey, let's do it wasn't like when there's hey, we're going to be the Uber of,
Yeah.
takeout dining or whatever. We're going to be the Super Bowl Shuffle of competitive highlight.
Yeah. You can look up, and this shit is worth looking up for a number of reasons, but the 88 Dodgers did their own championship rap thing. And among the things that are awesome is Oral Hershiser rapping. Just let that sink in. The Dodgers jackets were like those prime, like royal blue or Dodger blue satin jackets.
Yeah.
And yeah. There were dudes with super heavy Dominican accents that had curls.
Right. This keeps getting better.
Right. It just goes, And I don't recall what Kirk Gibson's role was, but I think he, instead of being angry and sullen and having a mustache, I think he actually participated, which I really want. I'm going to tee this thing up. But yeah.
Oh, yes. Dominican dudes who were coached phonetically what to say.
Right.
Some of whom probably had no idea what they were saying.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. That whole thing is, hilarious. I just thought of another World Championship level event song thing. Is that really good, New Order song that they did for the World Cup for the English team, and it's New Order, so it's catchy, it's hooky, it's fun. It's only for England though. Like if you're from England and that song comes on, they stop what they're doing and they hold each other and sing and have a good time because they're singing about their favorite team. So, because it's the national team. Yeah. It's and the song is legit. Like, it's not just crap. It's, it's good. It's not their best song, but you can see why they love it. I'll send you the link to that video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please do that. I was just listening to there's a YouTube video of a band called, they're a corporate cover band, a lot like 5.0.
Right.
Actually, they're a little more like Tim Akers. Okay, so Tim Akers is a Nashville producer, and he's one of the big-time guys who's like, you wouldn't compare him to the most artsy producer. Like, he's not a Daniel Lanois, but he is like he's not going to be the chance taker, but he's going to give you the $1 million product. It's going to cost you $1 million, but you're going to get every dollar worth. He's got a band called The Smoking Section, and The Smoking Section is just these badass old Nashville dudes. They're all in their 60s probably. And you would see that dude at Home Depot and think he might be a mail carrier or a retired whatever. But he's the fucking baddest guitarist you ever saw that you didn't know played guitar.
Right.
And he's just a Nashville studio dude, and he's played on all of the Garth Brooks records, and he's the modern-day Tommy Tedesco.
Okay.
But he's a little dumpy and balding, and he wears a baseball cap and a shirt that is probably should have been thrown away 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But he's got a whole band full of these people, and they do songs that make musicians get a boner. They did a cover of some Britney Spears song. I don't even know the name of the song, but when you hear it, you just go, Jesus Christ, that is so fucking good.
Right.
And this other band, The Untouchables, is kind of like that. And they're not the Untouchables because that was an actual band, but they're like the Unmentionables or something.
Okay.
But they're that kind of band.
Right.
And they have a cover of I Feel For You on YouTube. It's so goddamn good. You just listen to it and go, God damn it. That's what Shaka Khan really meant to do.
That was a long way to get there, but I'm glad that you got there because it was good.
Sorry. I'm working that out so we can do this album fight.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry at all. That was great. I was just commenting on the...
What I meant to say was, that band's good.
That band's good.
I was watching a video of a Shaka Khan song. That's why.
No, that's cool. And again, I'm just... it's a long way to get there, but you got there nicely, and I appreciate it. Now I'm going to have to watch that thing. First, I'm going to try to send you this New Order song. Oh, I don't want to send you a Russian link. Who knows what the hell that has attached to it. Anyhow, I'm going to send it this thing. You can find it yourself. We have the power of the internet. And it's called World in Motion. And it takes a minute to get going, but once it gets going, you'll be like, yes, yeah. If I don't know, okay, so here's my question. Once you see this thing, here's my question to ask yourself. What team would that be for us? Because we certainly do not give a fuck about soccer enough to have a song that we would all get down with. And then who would write such a song? Like New Order makes sense writing a song for England's national soccer team. But, we don't want to see the Patriots win. We certainly don't care enough about the Eagles to have a national song that we all sing. Is there a team? We don't care about the Dream Team like that. Can you think of anything that we're...
Yeah, there isn't one.
Right. And Lee Greenwood already did, what is it? Did he do I'm proud to be an American world? Is that his song, Lee Greenwood?
Mm-hmm.
So that's already covered.
I think so.
And we don't really all like that song. Mm-hmm. We're a bunch of dicks to ourselves.
Yeah. We are. We can't get together on anything.
No, we sure can't. I haven't found that Dodgers video, but that's going to be a great conversation on Twitter, and I'm going to find it, and I'm going to send it to you, and you're going to enjoy all of it. Because it is great. Like Mariano Duncan, he is that Dominican dude with a satin jacket, with a stain ring on it. Just standing next to like Mike Marshall, who's like, I'm about to break my wrist, because that's all he did. He was like this guy who had these incredible skills but could never keep his bones together. Like He's like, I've never in my life been so brittle, right? So he's like, kind of dancing. And then there's Mariano Duncan, whose hips actually move. This is hilarious.
Wow.
Man. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great for all the right reasons. And Oral Hirsch has her raps.
Which is always good. They're called the Mighty Untouchables. So let's launch into this thing, man.
Album
We're going
fight.
to have an album fight. Duking it out.
Yeah.
In the red corner, wearing the shiny trunks with sequins on them.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. Wearing overalls.
Right.
Acid-washed overalls. And maybe a mustard yellow T-shirt underneath.
For
and
sure.
one of the overall straps undone. From 1990, The Revival by Tony Toni Tone.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was your pick.
That's right. I picked that. Yeah, because we were going to go at this, and I think we tend to like to cross a genre, because I just don't want to have the conversation of Queen versus Queensryche. I just don't want to do it. I want to make people work. And then you grabbed
more fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You grabbed INXS
in the red corner.
Right. Wait, they're both in the red corner? Nice.
No, in the blue corner. They could both be in the red corner. In the blue corner from 1982.
Wearing a sheen of Vaseline.
And that's all.
And that's
maybe
all.
A little spray bottle finish off.
Mm-hmm.
And a brooding look with some bedroom eyes is INXS Shabooh Shoobah.
Yeah, this is the emergence of two bands. They'd already had albums out. This is Tony Toni Tone working with Denny and Tommy, and at the peak of their powers as well, when they were getting ready to just crush everybody with En Vogue. This is it right here. These guys had already done it, and platinum comes out of this album.
Yeah, this is a good place for both of these bands because they were already, like you said, veterans.
Yeah.
They just hadn't yet emerged. Their audience hadn't quite found them. I mean, one could say that their audience, their core audiences, had already found them, but they hadn't had yet that breakout record. And this, for both of them, was probably their first platinum entries, and I would say a comparable part of their career, respectively.
Yeah.
One of the differences is Tony Toni Tone's got more tracks on their
That's true.
album.
How do you want to account for that?
Well, I think that there are places where we can combine.
Okay.
So combine and condense so that when we get down to the end, we're going to do this round by round, but when we get down to the end, we'll talk about, both bands finishing about the same time. So rather than saying, well, this is a great fight up till now, but Tony Toni Tone fought for 14 rounds and INXS only fought for 10.
Yeah.
That's kind of not fair. So we're going to make it so that this is a decision and that we're packing the same amount of fight.
But let's give credit, though, where credit is due with the 14 songs. If we are close and we do have to go to the scorecards to really, really get it down, that is a difference maker potentially.
I think with this record pairing, it might come to that.
Yeah.
So this is like the CompuBox punch count.
Yeah, and I got to admit, INXS is my kind of music. I'm going to have to wash out my own passion for their music because I'll get lost in INXS for days. And I'm not as passionate about Tony Toni Tone, though I love this band. And we've sat in Dwayne's house. He's fed us food.
Yeah.
And so I have...
Yeah, man. The dude gave you deep fried fish.
Yeah. So...
Got to count for something.
It does count for something. It does.
Yeah.
But this is what makes this exciting. The caveat that we always give is we will be critical at times, but we're being critical of the very highest possible success in music. Both of these albums. We want you to listen to these albums with us. This is why we do this. So when we are critical, we're saying, well, if I have to make a decision, if I have to discern, this smallest little detail here to me is not as good as this one.
Yeah, we're talking about the very, very fine points.
Yeah.
So both of these pieces of work are great. They're both markers in a musical movement. And let's face it, we love Dwayne. He's done a lot for us. Good guy. And we love him. So here we go. I think even though we're going to have to combine some places, it's track 1 versus track 1 for round 1.
No doubt.
Because they're strong, both of them. They're both hits. So this is, you have compared this type of matchup to the Hearns-Hagler. Was that Hearns-Hagler 2?
It's one of those
bell
ones.
rang, and they just they just came, perhaps the greatest round in boxing, where the two of them just came out, and any mere mortal facing either one of those two would have just been killed.
Yeah.
And they both just stood in there, and that's the one thing versus feels good. You know, they're both just jams. And I can't say that there's a clear winner here. As much as I love Feels Good, as much as that's been a party anthem for me, but the one thing is so good.
Yeah. The way I look at these two songs is very similar. This is Hagler and Hearns right there, standing there, and Hearns just throws that mile-long arm out. And as he's doing that, and he's stoked because he's about to hit Hagler right in the eyebrow. The reason why is because Hagler's hand is an inch from his face, from Hearns' face.
Right.
They're both about to get the first punch in, and they're both about to go, damn, oh, Jesus. And it does, I can't call the better song here because either song's played, I want to do something with my body. I love both of these songs, and I can't, even at the highest level of detail, I just can't discern a difference enough to say this song is better than that one. They're both excellent catalog foundational songs.
Yeah. Also, when you look at the songs next to each other in the track listings, I'm looking at Wikipedia, for instance. The other thing to point out, similarities between these two bands is, of course, Farriss Brothers versus Wiggins Brothers.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that they're collaborative effort kind of bands, really a matchup like Hearns-Hagler, where they're going to come out and the tail of the tape's pretty even.
Yeah, they can come out and sit there and duke it out. We should probably have said this ahead of time, too. It's two family bands, but one of the different, and Tommy and Denny also writing songs, so it's certainly no slouch in their own right, but also an incredible songwriting duo between Farriss and Hutchins, and they got to a level that they don't have to bow to anybody's songwriting ability. I mean, they're as good as any duo that's ever written songs together.
They were the Denny and Tommy of Australia.
Yeah, really. Yeah, just fantastic to see what they were able to come up with. Andrew Farriss and Michael Hutchins, when they got together, they had...
Would you say any songwriting duo?
Any songwriting duo. They don't have to...
now you're lumping them in with, come on, Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Holland Dozier Holland.
Oh, I think that all those guys can look at each other, sit in the same room, and they'll all defer to each other. They'll all go, yeah, what you guys did right there, we couldn't have done that. I think that room is not easy to get into, and it's special company. And then you look what happens when Andrew Farriss is no longer has Michael Hutchins to realize his music. We've not seen a lot from Andrew, and I'm sure he can write the heck out of a song, but that's something that left. So Tony Toni Tone has their it factor, and so does INXS, and both bands have funk in them, by the way.
Yeah, they're both funky. Lennon McCartney.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly in that room, and they certainly don't have to bow to anybody either. So they all defer to one another. Lennon and McCartney are epic, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just throwing songwriting duos out there to see if you recalibrate your thinking, and you don't seem to be recalibrating.
I think they all have the gold key. They all get to go in and go.
Assessing and staying true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, though. There's no denying that when Michael Hutchins left us, he left a hole.
Yeah. His leaving. Well, let's get on with the.
Let's move on to round 2. Yeah. We could do that forever.
Yeah.
Michael Hutchins, we miss you. I don't know that this is the right time to do this, but I want to take a sidebar because I was deeply affected by the loss of Leon and Dugu Chancellor yesterday.
Yeah.
That broke my heart that we never managed to get him because we were a relationship away from him 10 times.
Yeah.
And we should have pressed a little harder and said, hey, let's grab Ndugu. I just didn't know he was leaving us so early.
Yeah.
and his work with so many of the artists that we know and love, to include Michael Jackson, by the way.
Yeah.
Greatness leaving us once again.
Yeah, this is exactly it. I mean, I always try to push, and I don't mind pulling that thing out, like Ndugu's Gone, I was listening to, again, I'm going to get us sidetracked, but yeah, Billy Preston. I would have loved to have sat across from Billy Preston, and he deserved to get a chance to tell his story in a new way.
Yeah. Man, you're right. Anyway.
To Look at You versus... now, do you want to bunch in all the way in Oakland Stroke, or what do you think?
We could, sure. Yeah, let's do that, because the blues deserves to stand alone in its own round. Okay. So if we go all the way in the Oakland Stroke, All the Way is a pretty good track, but it wasn't my favorite. There are songs on that record, The Revival, where I can say, I met a girl to that song.
Right.
And we did more than meet to that song. And that song kicked off several parties. All the Way, it was pretty good. Didn't have any life events attached to it for me.
Does All the Way...
but then again, neither did To Look at You.
Right. Yeah. No, that's the thing. Are either of these songs in the filler category? And that's really... I'm not trying to be a jerk, and I feel like it is, but I think they both rise above that, but these are not album-leading tracks.
No, they're not. What they are, if we're still staying within the boxing analogies, they're the okay, take it easy now. Let's not use it all up. We got a long fight ahead of us. Let's size up the opponent. Let's stay out of arm's reach. Let's see what kind of legs he's got. Let's see what kind of strategy we can pull apart by watching him. This is the setup round, where this is 3/4 of Floyd Mayweather's illustrious career.
Yeah. Yeah, these are the frustrating rounds where you're trying to establish a certain punch, or, you noticed a pattern in the film room, and now you're trying to deploy that pattern while not get the pattern delivered to you. So there is something to be said for this. Is ugly hard work that has to go in a fight, and I think it speaks to how close these two albums end up being.
Yeah. Keep in mind, listeners, neither one of these bands had any of this in mind when they were making these records.
Never.
But these are, for the purposes of our comparison, this is both bands playing defense.
Yeah, I think so. And when you look at INXS, and again, I love INXS. I'm passionate. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. To Look at You, to me, is Michael Hutchence not quite getting that song right. Because he certainly nails down the singing to a girl and everybody in the room gets laid. He nails that in other songs. He just doesn't quite get there. Right. And the song is hooky, it's good, but it's not in this one. And that when you're that strong, that shows up. This would be a great song for a lot of other bands that weren't international hit bands.
Right.
And yes. I think the same thing is true.
The quality of their overall body of work.
Yeah.
And yeah. I will say, though, about the Oakland Stroke that I do like the throwbacks. I mean, this harkens back to Sly and the Family Stone, Tower of Power, pays tribute to the Oakland roots. Yeah. And I appreciate it for that, because I love Oakland, and I love paying homage to what came before, and this does both.
Yeah. If I was going to have any kind of knock, and this is Dwayne's song, The Oakland Stroke, he sings it, and he writes the words almost for sure. But there's some, not the lyrics aren't as good as, again, when he gets the lyrics right, you recognize it right away. And when he's standing up there and talking about how Oakland's this, Oakland's that, and he says, he rhymes something with mud in your eye. I'm like, oh, come on. This is what keeps that song from getting to the next level. Like, your rap is cute and it's fun, but show me something that I can't do. And that lyric is where I go, oh, come on. You got the call outs, you got the other things, but it's just not, their best work.
Moving on.
Are we calling that a draw, by the way?
Well, okay. I would have called it a draw, except that we put two songs together to fight one song. So I think I would probably give it 115 to 114 Tony Toni Tone, just because they're there was more material there to work with.
Okay.
So here again, this is them winning a round by a hair,
Right.
because the CompuBox stats said they threw more punches.
I'm going to call this a straight up draw and say that I don't see a difference between the two. And that's the whole reason why you have judges' cards and everything else. So we'll have to see how this goes. But I will have a pin to say you might have a point in two songs beating one song. So,
well, this might be one of those situations where one judge says, well, I gave them that round by a point because they threw more punches.
Right.
And the other judge says, well, I didn't give them that. I gave that round a draw because they landed the same number of punches.
Yeah. Well, their defense against their offense was great. Yeah, exactly. This is tough. So. Yeah. But I will give, I'm scoring this on a little thing here at the house. So, okay. So.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to keep track so we can actually say.
So we can tally it up. So are we going Spy of Love versus the Blues?
I think we have to, yeah. This is the two guys, all right, I've got something figured out. Now we're going to come out and sort out.
Uh-huh. I'm going to dial it in a little bit and start to throw this jab because I think it's going to land.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to keep you at bay.
Right.
And the other fighter going, oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to try and flip that and see if I can land these inside body blows.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good matchup.
Yeah. It is a good matchup. Spy of Love.
I think the Blues was a great song for really not necessarily introducing New Jack Swing, but that the swing feel in a song. They really kind of contemporized funk in a way that was cool and was Oakland right then, and that's what I loved about the Blues.
Did the New Jack Swing sound come out of New York, or how did it get to Oakland? Is I guess my real question.
I don't know. I think it was a feeling at the time. I mean, certainly you have to credit Teddy Riley. And what he was doing was very influential, and I think he started it all. In fact, you know what? The very first time I met Dwayne, I worked at Guitar Center in Oakland.
Okay.
And Tony Tone was playing the Oakland Coliseum. We've talked about this with Dwayne, I believe over Fish and Chips. And their opening act was Guy with Teddy Riley.
That's right. Yes.
Yep. And Sheila E.
Wow.
It was Tony, Sheila E. and Guy. And the Aaron Hall and Dwayne came into Guitar Center and just kind of farted around. And I had never heard of Guy, so when Aaron Hall came in, I was a rocker right then. Aaron Hall came in. He had a big Guy nameplate on his chest. So to say that the influence wasn't I mean, you have to acknowledge that the influence was there in both directions. So, the blues was great, but I'd say Teddy Riley. You know, he's the godfather of New Jack Swing.
So the blues, what stands out for you in this song?
I think I was just really starting to understand the concept of laying back on the snare drum.
Okay.
And this was a good place for me to really put a marker on that concept, so that guys like Rick Marotta could begin to make sense for me. So
I got you. Yeah, that's an important thing.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. Who were you thinking? Say the last name and say it again to give reference.
Oh, I was thinking about Tim, who plays drums for Tony Toni Tone. And when he, I know that a lot of this stuff was programmed, but that he was playing along with it and they were layering. And I think that's where the subtlety came in. And with regard to making sense of that concept of playing drums and that concept of what it meant to be funky, that was very important.
Yeah.
So comparing it, though, Spy of Love was tremendously strong.
Yeah.
And like you said, I played defense in round 2. I got something figured out.
Yeah.
Tell us about Spy of Love.
Well, for me, Spy of Love is capturing what INXS does well. Farriss and Hutchins doing a great job. The grooves in that song, I think, are strong. It's definitely the two bands are going to have to deal with a heavy shot. It also captures that different sound that INXS brought from Australia that was growing out of their clubs out there. It's sort of their New Jack Swing. And if you don't know that sound, it's not as easy, I don't think, to capture as the New Jack Swing thing, talking about when you hit the snare and the kind of snare you hit. But it's in there, and it's sort of their version of big music.
In a way, it's more discernible, because what they do on Spy of Love, it's more subtle to say that Tim's laying back on the snare drum on the blues. With Spy of Love, the technique there is to hold back the snare drum altogether.
Okay.
And then make the backbeat. By the time the backbeat shows up and now you're ready to dance, it's a payoff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they go through that whole verse with just the bass drum. And then by the time the snare drum shows up, and then the beat comes in, there's a payoff to that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's like musical brooding.
Yeah.
It is what INXS did well. And so, definitely as a musical movement should be acknowledged the same kind of way.
Yeah, and I think for me, what stands out is the keyboards and sort of how they play around above the song. Not disco-like with strings, but kind of in that vein, from my layman terms. And so that's sort of that INXS sound, that do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do, kind of thing up above what everybody else is doing down in the mud. And I don't know.
And because Michael Hutchence was kind of he was a baritone-ish tenor.
Okay.
So I think that was technique-wise, it was a way to stay out of his way.
Yeah, I can see that. But it definitely, especially the early INXS works, that's what gets them off that giant island and into other places, because you hadn't heard that and it works. But the guitar work, there's some call-outs to kind of bagpipe type things that was happening a lot with like Echo and the Bunnymen and other bands that were doing that. It still had that sound, that big sound that kind of defined the big music era. So these are two landmark songs in terms of that specific genre, New Jack Swing or big music. And I have to say that I think I like what Spy of Love does a little bit more. And I put that on the work of Michael Hutchence and what he creates with that smolder that he had.
Yeah. Well, from a historical sense, the thing about Australia is that here we went through a phase where disco sucked. Remember the disco sucks phase when we were kids? In Australia, disco never sucked.
Right.
So they could be free with that kind of string patch. And they used it to great effect. And I think from a musical movement standpoint, you're absolutely right about that. I'll even go with you and say, I'm going to give, as much as I love the blues, and it does have landmarks in my life that are attached to it, I think Spy of Love, I'm going to give 110 to 109, Spy of Love.
All righty. 10-point must. He gets the 10 in, and it's a close round, but I think in 25 years, which song is going to get played more? And I don't know that song is the blues.
Okay. No.
All right, so what's the next one?
The next one is Soul Mistake.
Okay.
And we're putting that up against...
It's going up against Good Time.
Let's have a good time. That's a Denny and Tommy song.
It is.
Of course, I have emotional attachment to that song, and there's a meaning of emotional attachment that has to do with Denny and Tommy and how much I love them. Boy, this is a tough one.
This is a very tough one. Okay, so here we go. This is it's almost unfair because Tony Toni gets the tag out for a second and bring in, the other tag team of Foster and McElroy. Wow. And this is where you have your gold card song duo access, earning round. Can Tommy and Denny get into the boardroom? Because I think, and I won't say that Soul Mistake is the best song the INXS ever wrote, but the elements of what's there is a place where most songwriters can't get. And I think it starts off just the first lyric. that Hutchins writes is promises are carved out of lust.
Yeah. You know what? That's not even fair.
Right. The whole first stanza is promises are carved out of lust with a fire in the heart that burns with no regret. I vow to play the part. And then later on he repeats that stanza, but he changes I vow to play that part to I vow to play that part. Promises.
I'm going to break your heart.
Yeah, basically he does a lyric where he promises to let her
Broccoli
down.
gives me greasy farts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
that's the unfair part. That's the unfair part. Because here's Tony Toni. They're the shining example of, and we'll get to this a little bit later too, because we're going to get to Whatever You Want. But they are collectively a great boyfriend. They're going to dress nicely. They're going to dance well. They're going to be smiley. You're going to enjoy their company, and they're going to shower you with affection and love. Michael Hutchins, on the other hand, is going to steal the girl from them.
Yeah.
Because he's trouble.
He's trouble. Yeah, and
he's going to walk into the room and announce that he's going to let her down.
Uh-huh.
And she's not going to care.
I'm going to get what I get is the lyric. Basically, like, I'm going to get what I get. This is just 3 stanzas later, you know? So it's like, I'm going to sing right to your girlfriend. She's going to be back in my dressing room. But don't worry, you can have her back because I'm on to the next one, you know? And you said this well the other day when we were talking about this. Raphael Saadiq is the great boyfriend. He's going to light a candle. He's going to draw a bath. He's going to wear that mustard yellow shirt and look good and smile for you. And you're going to know you're loved. But in this case, this is a dude with long hair and leather pants that just came in the room.
He's got leather pants, and I just want him to break me off. That's what the ladies are thinking. So, okay. Yeah, bam. That makes it not fair.
It is. It's a band doing what it does at the best level, for sure. So we're going to go with Soul Mistake, each giving that a 10-point must for NX. I wouldn't call it a knockdown, not at all, but I think we're both favoring that song. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, Tommy.
Boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy might be hitting us for real.
This is a great round by Tony Tone and a punch in the liver by Michael Hutchins.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. INXS's face is redder now, but there's a little curl to the rib side of Tony Toni Tone. You know, when they go to do that dance, they're going to be like, might be some blood in the urine. But they come right back with It Never Rains in Southern California.
Well, they do. What do you like about that song? I don't know. That's not my favorite Tony Toni Tone song.
How come?
It's pretty good, but I just don't think lyrically that it's all that strong. I mean, it's got a theme, and they're being, they're certainly in character. Also, a couple things to acknowledge. Number one, the video was directed by Lisa Bonet.
Oh, okay, that is interesting.
Which is cool. Because she was the hottest thing in the world right then.
Right.
And that we were at Dwayne's house, and remember there was like a shipping container filled with clothing. It was like stage clothes.
Yeah.
And it was one of the anvil cases. And I remember kind of thumbing through there, and we were laughing about it because those costumes had some years on them. He said, I wore this in the It Never Rains video.
Yeah.
So, that's a little piece of nostalgia around that.
Yeah.
Video, but not my favorite Tony Toni song.
Right. It's.
However, if we want to put up against Here Comes, if we want to bunch up It Never Rains and Whatever You Want, because they're kind of ballady, or we could bunch up Whatever You Want and I Care.
Right.
Because they're both Raphael being that great boyfriend again.
Well, you know what? I think that this is, for me, when you say it like that, this is Raphael Saadiq doing the best at what he does. And I don't think that INXS has anything for that with Here It Comes. Here It Comes is a great song, a whole lot of bass, and it's thummy, funky, I'm surprised to say those words, but it's absolutely, I love that song because it is funky. But I will say that I think that this, in the new jack swing genre, this is what that's about right there. It's those dance moves, it's those clothes, and it's all that stuff together. And I think this is Tony, doing their best to define that genre in these two songs. If we're going to put a 2-song medley together, I just think that that's better than what INXS puts up in terms of Here Comes.
Okay, you're right. We know you love a topless Jeep as much as anybody. So, trying to think if the topless Jeep in that video was actually yellow too.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
I hope so.
Whatever it was, they employed the Jeep, which was, even it's what Nino Brown drove in New Jack City. So, if anything spoke to New Jack Swing, the Jeep sure did.
Exactly. Yes, the Jeep, the clothes. The one thing I will say, though, as we keep going on, is that high, that snare sound, and the way it's used, it starts to become one-trick pony-ish at this point in the album for me. As I listen through it, I'm like, gosh, I'm really like, all right, let's go, let's get to work. It is a genre album, so you have a lot of it in there, but it does start to wear out for me, and. Yeah, okay. I think it does affect the longevity of the album. But the same thing really honestly is true about INXS, and those keys, those keyboard sounds kind of do become dated.
You're right.
So shit.
There are sounds that have a date on them.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is a matchup where the sounds that have a date on them, if we compare them to contemporary stuff, are at the time for both acts. Respectively speaking, it was the best of what that sound had to offer.
Right. What do you think?
What's next? Are we on to? I'm going to lean toward Tony Toni Tone, just again because of the CompuBox punch count.
Okay.
And I think Here Comes, Soul Mistake. Well, Soul Mistake is a little more brooding again by Michael Hutchence. Golly, that's a tough call.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not looking at the scorecard to get a feel for it, but I think we keep going because we have Black and White versus I Care, and I think we'll maybe see some clarity here that if we keep going. Okay.
So I Care is, does that mean we put It Never Rains and Whatever You Want together?
Oh, I think so, yeah. Is that what we did? Okay.
Because like I said, we could stick Whatever You Want.
That's the title of a song, by the way, for the audience. It's
Never Rains or I Care. Yeah, either one of them. It could go either direction.
I think It Never Rains and Whatever You Want.
The thing to acknowledge about Whatever You Want. Yeah?
Yeah, I think It Never Rains and Whatever You Want go together because they're just tracks 6 and 7. So just keep it simple and just have them go together.
Okay. Well, then I'll lean toward Tony Toni Tone on that round because of, again, the punch count. Because Whatever You Want, that was Raphael being. You couldn't, if you played that song for your girlfriend and he was speaking for you, that's the song that makes your girl love you.
Yeah. Yeah. We agree on that.
I'm nearly certain that when T.I. wrote You Can Have Whatever You Like, he was thinking about this song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there is something to that legacy callback. Like, I owe something here because I want to try to write that song. That's what that's saying. And definitely we agree on that. So you both put a hatch mark in the column for Tony Toni Tone. Oh, man. This is hard. This is so close to me. It's really, really tough.
Okay.
So now we're going Black and White versus I Care, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's where I think INXS has their legs starting to get tired.
Oh, really?
I think Black and White and Golden Playpen both. Neither one of those songs did much for me. Mm-hmm. I think this is a puncher with tired legs, and it's taking something out of his punch, and it's taking something out of his ability to be nimble.
Okay.
Black and White for me, it's just kind of a middling, effort to keep an album together. I'll give it some credit for keeping the continuity, but yeah, that song did nothing for me.
I think some of the Australian sound is in there, that keyboard sound that they have in the song. I think is part of, their call to all the rest of the world to say, hey, this book comes out of Australia. And I think that that's cool about this song. The lyrics are good, but I don't know if they're great, if I'm going to, at the level we're playing, I should say, in the context of that. But I also think that Raphael Saadiq is doing the same thing he did in the song before. And
you're right.
You're
right.
If we're gonna discern,
he's sitting there saying, "I'm still a good boyfriend."
Yes,
which is what allows Michael Hutchence to swoop in and say, "Come here, I know you're getting bored, lady."
And again, close to your point of they've never planned this, but it works out really well. He's like, Michael Hutchence goes, "Make a decision. Make a decision." Look at this. Let me rub my hands through my hair. I'm a little bit sweaty.
Go ahead and let it be a short-term bad decision too. It's okay too.
Yeah.
But when you say that Black and White speaks to what was coming out of Australia, I could see where that would kind of be cool as a representative of a musical movement. But Vegemite came out of Australia too, so there.
Yeah, that's true.
That shit is nasty.
And they talk about the spy of love, and now we talk about the thief of time, so some of this stuff is getting a little heavy thematic. One of the lyrics is he talks about his mind as a place for you to roam. And if he had said body is a place for you to roam, then I would give this song without a doubt to INXS. And this is the level that we're playing at, it's a word. But I don't believe that... Look how far I'm reading into this. That girl that's trying to choose between Raphael and him, she doesn't want his mind. She wants that smolder. And I think that's a missed opportunity. Yeah. He winds back to throw that jab, and I think that Raphael does pop him in the eye in that one. So I'm going to give credit on that side, but just by the slightest of margin. And if you're so inclined to do the same thing, then I'll mark it around each for Tony Toni Tone. But I also wouldn't, if you split it, I wouldn't get mad at you either because it's that close.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to lean toward Tony Toni Tone because I'm conservative when it comes to the ladies. And I just want the good guy to win on that one because fucking Michael Hutchence, man. He'll steal anybody's lady.
He will.
Anyway.
He will. And you'll thank him for it.
Golden playpen?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that, but...
No, you'll thank you for giving him back. It's like when the champ shows up and he's like, I'm taking your lady. You're like, yeah, champ, have fun. I'll see you later. You're just trying to survive, man. You're just trying to get through the next 10 minutes.
I guess you are.
Golden Playpen versus Sky's the Limit.
We're going to run out of songs for INXS if we don't continue to bunch for Tony Toni Tone.
Yeah, but I think it's okay.
Unfortunately, kind of spells trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I think that's okay. They put out the number of songs they put out. So, and I don't know that the rest of the songs on Tony Toni Tone are, strong either. So is this filler versus we're done, we're out? We're clean. I don't know that either band pays a penalty for saying that's what we've got on this album, and Tony Toni Tone getting advantage because they did more songs that aren't all that great. Not that all the rest of the songs aren't all that great, but I'm fine playing it out and seeing how it goes.
Okay, all right. Where were we?
Golden Playpen and Sky's the Limit.
Sky's the Limit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Sky's the Limit. Sky's the Limit was okay. Again, we're in the rounds where the legs start getting tired.
Yeah, I don't think
we're heading into the 9th and 10th rounds, and for both sides, the legs are getting tired. They're getting rubbery. We're starting to see the same things again.
Yeah,
and I don't know, man. That could be a draw for me real easily.
Yeah, I'm going to make
one of those boring
Yeah.
I was trying to get the waitress's attention, and you look at the boxing judge and go, "Hey, what did you think about that round?" And you go, "I don't know. I didn't really feel anything." So I was trying to get the waitress.
I had ordered a whiskey sour.
I might have missed something.
Right. I think you're right. This is, as far as INXS goes, knowing their catalog pretty well, this is them doing what got them off the island, that made them great on the island. And they've already done that on this album. So it's not a bad song, but it's not a great song. It's one that you easily could skip through, even back in the album days, and you weren't like, oh, I really like that song. Someone loves that song, but not enough someones to make it a winner. And I think you're right. I think this is a draw between the two bands. Sky's the Limit is okay. It's new jack swing, and that's really, there's nothing new, and these are, later tracks on the album. Maybe we're going to close strong, but we need another song, boys. Someone says that. And they're like, well, we have this one.
You know what? I think we can step on the gas here because we have rounds 9 and 10. We can head straight to round 12 on this, because here's what happens for me with both of these records. Jan's song is when INXS starts to come back.
Okay.
And Old World, New World, really good.
Yeah.
Don't Change, huge round 12.
Yeah.
Huge round 12.
Yeah, they brought it at the end for sure.
By comparison, what happens with Tony Toni Tone for me is they go Sky's the Limit, All My Love, which was pretty good too, but then Don't Talk About Me, that was good. Skin Tight, that was good. So for me, they had a really, really powerful round 11.
Yeah.
And then we get into JoJo and those. So now, as a whole, between the two bands, we have Jan's song starts to kick it into gear, and round 11 for INXS, pretty good. And they're starting to show the second wind.
Yeah.
And then round 12 is huge.
All right.
For Tony Toni Tone, round 11, really strong. I don't know that it's really as huge as round 12 for INXS and Don't Change, but they sort of fizzle in round 12.
Yeah.
So if I may summarize, on my side, I say the remainder of the fight from here is a flat-out draw. And I might even give one more point to INXS for the big round 12 of Don't Change. What say you?
I don't know that I disagree with that. I know that JoJo is a good song. It does not resonate with me, and so I have to give it a lot of benefit of the doubt. And if I was to take away that benefit of the doubt and say that song just is what it is, and what I think it is, then I would have to lean on what you're saying. And these two bands come out and they do a great job. They give us a great fight, and they're both standing at the end of it, waiting to see whose arm. And both corners, their guys are jumping, pointing at their guy. And rightfully so. Yep. It's that close.
Right. And both guys they're pointing at have the eyes swollen shut. They're bloodied. They're battered.
Yeah, there's been a fight.
It was a fight.
Yeah, there's definitely multi-month medical suspensions coming out of Vegas at the Fight Authority. This is a very, very tough fight, and it could easily be the third judge that decides it, because I think we both see the fight in very similar ways. We disagreed maybe on one round, possibly two, but the bottom line is I think, like you said, INXS finishes just a touch stronger. And if you don't like that, you have a right to be like, you're stealing. All of the people in the crowd that saw the fight differently are going to be absolutely enraged that we gave it to INXS. But that's ultimately what happens. We give it to INXS by the narrowest of margins, and it might go all the way back to when Michael Hutchence does what he does in Soul Mistake, and just that. Oh man, that might be the difference.
And with that landed left hook in round 6, way back in round 6, it made the difference. That is crazy. I am an enormous fan of Tony Toni Tone. If you had me, I've said this before, and I know I speak in superlatives, but as much as you love INXS, I love Tony Toni Tone so much. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. My musical brother, my cousin Daryl, and I share a love for Tony Toni Tone that is, it's a huge part of my musical makeup, and I can never shower enough praise on the Wiggins brothers, and Denny and Tommy and stuff like that. But you know what? This is the fight where it's like, even I don't agree with what we've done on the cards, and I was on the cards. So maybe this is a fight that goes to INXS by a point that happened way back because of a left hook in round 6, and it's one of those fights that goes, after everybody is healed, we're gonna have to see a rematch.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what we have to do with this, because there's more to come from both bands, and both of them do get into better shape and have longer albums that have more depth in them. I mean, I think Dwayne's ability.
Might be Kick versus Sons of Soul.
How crazy is that?
We're looking at Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran right here.
Yeah,
in the album fight business.
And these guys are in the middle of the ring hugging, saying, we have to do this again, because the crowd loved it.
This shit ain't over.
Yeah, you and I both know we didn't decide it, and it doesn't matter with them two fat dudes.
This shit ain't over.
Yeah, those fat dudes can't decide this. We're going to decide this, and in the most positive of ways. This is two great bands that you can always pull out multiple songs from their catalog and go, fuck, I love this song. Yeah, man, I dig it. So I won't call it a split decision, but it's damn close. And the decision easily could have gone the other way, but it's INXS this time.
All right. Congratulations, INXS. Hey, we hope you guys love this album fight as much as we love doing it, because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You'll see more. We're going to bring guests in to join in on these album fights with us. This has been great, Pete.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
That was fun.